Let's continue now with House Majority Whip James Clyburn of South Carolina. His district includes Charleston and Columbia. Mr. Clyburn, good evening. Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you very much for having me.
So what is the path forward for these bills? It looks like they could face a very different fate in the Senate if they even make it through the filibuster at all. Well,
it's going to be very difficult. No matter how you look at it, you got to get 51 votes, even if you don't have the 60 vote rule. And we do have some difficulty as it currently stands with some of the members as it relates to getting rid of the filibuster. But, you know, we have made an exception when it comes to the budget. The so-called reconciliation allows us to go forward with 51 votes. Maybe we ought to look at constitutional issues like voting and voting rights. And maybe it's time to get rid of that 60 vote requirement as it relates to constitutional rights. So I'm all for us taking a hard look at these exceptions to see whether or not it makes sense for us to hold on to the filibuster when it comes to issues, but not allow it to get in the way of voting rights and other civil rights.
I want to make sure I fully understand what you just said. It sounds like you're saying that the Senate should consider some sort of legislative method to allow bills to circumvent the filibuster in the way that reconciliation allows some budget and taxation measures to get around the filibuster, that they should create another rule that would sort of leapfrog the filibuster. Did I hear you right?
Leapfrog it or go around it, whatever might be the case. I'm saying that I have never argued that the filibuster ought to be totally eliminated, though I think it probably should be. I just don't carry that argument. I'm saying for those people who would like to hold on to the filibuster, and President Biden has indicated that he would like to hold on to it, then hold on to it for legislative issues that do not revolve around civil rights and voting rights. We have allowed reconciliation to take place so that you can pass the budget at 50% plus one. Then we ought to do that.
That sounds like possible. I won't say it's impossible. I wonder what your sense is of the most logical way forward for the Democratic policy agenda, especially with this filibuster in place. It would be shameful if John Lewis's name was attached to a piece of legislation that was merely a token and did not become law, if it was merely symbolic and did not become the law of the land. I don't think anyone in the House on the Democratic side wants that to happen. Are the House and the Senate on the same page in terms of strategy to ensure that bills that are that important do become law and are not purely symbolic?
I think the House Democrats and the Senate Democrats are on the same page as it relates to that issue. I do feel that the Republicans don't want to have fair elections. It's very clear that they would like to see constraints put on voters. They would like to make sure that they have some kind of disadvantage or some kind of advantage without having to discuss issues. They just want it built into the system. That is what's going on today. And when you talk about systemic racism, that's when you build these kinds of things into the system. Now they're trying to have built into the system advantages to minority voters, to people who they feel may not subscribe to their philosophies. And so that is what they would like to do.
Well, but what is the best strategy what is the best strategy, though, for Democrats to work through that? I mean, you were the one who put Joe Biden in the White House in many ways. When you tapped him on the shoulder in South Carolina, that changed everything. So I wonder what you see as someone who played a direct role in the current administration's existence as the path to make this change. You can't change Republicans. You can work with the party you have. Is this the kind of thing that just needs to be put on the back burner until the composition of Congress changes? Or is the time now for the John Lewis Voting Rights Act?
The time is now. for the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. The time is now for H.R. 1. What I think we need to do is to just say we are going to change the rules when it comes to voting rights and other constitutional issues. As it relates to legislative programs, if you got a legislative discussion to take place, let the filibuster apply to that. But on voting rights and constitutional issues like civil rights, we ought not allow those kinds of things to be filibustered. Because that's what's giving filibuster a bad name in the African-American community.
Right. And before,
I was around.
I'm sorry, but before I have to let you go in just 1 second. I'm very sorry to keep interrupting you. I got to let you go in just a moment. Before I let you go, with regards to changing that process, have you spoken to anyone in the Senate on that line, or are there any senators that you believe are supportive of that, of creating a formal end run around the filibuster in the Senate?
Yes. I've spoken to quite a few senators about that. And I've said it very clear. Senator Merkley and I talked last week, and I said to him, the John R. Lewis Voting Rights Act must not die at the altar of a filibuster. Must not die at the altar of a filibuster. I made that very clear to him. If that were to happen, it would be catastrophic. And that's the word I've been using for several weeks now. It would be catastrophic consequences for the John R. Lewis Voting Rights Act to die at the altar of a filibuster.
Well, if you are serious about that, sir, and I have no reason to believe you're not, I'll be interested to see whether or not the Senate is willing to create a new set of rules as an end run around the filibuster to make that happen. But I appreciate you making time for us tonight. Congressman Jim Clyburn of South Carolina, the House Majority Whip, thanks very much.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. You should know that you can follow today's top stories and breaking news and catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.